What happens if this changes everything? What if the ultimate puppet master in Port Charles isn't a mob boss, a rogue intelligence agent, or a Cassadine, but someone who has been sitting comfortably at the head of the Quartermain table all along? Guys, I don't think we are paying attention to what comes next with this mysterious WSB contact known only as Z. We are all so hyper-focused on the immediate threats, on Jen Sidwell setting traps and Ross Cullum cornering people, that we are missing the invisible hand moving the chess pieces from the shadows. What if this moment becomes the beginning of something much bigger? A revelation that shifts the entire balance of global intelligence and local power. Imagine a scenario where every major event, every miraculous rescue, and every sudden prison sentence over the last decade was signed off by a single unseen entity. The story could be heading toward a massive paradigm shift where we realize that the true power in this world doesn't carry a gun, but rather a teacup and a multi-billion-dollar portfolio. What happens when the curtain is pulled back and Z is revealed to be the one person nobody ever suspected? Let us take a very quick look at the current board just to see where the pieces are standing. Valentine Cassadine has fled to Geneva, risking his absolute freedom to meet with Z in a desperate bid to expose Ross Cullum as a dirty double agent. Carly Spencer is terrified for Josslyn Jax, who is currently held hostage at Windermere, and Carly is relying entirely on Valentine's risky play with Z to save her daughter. Meanwhile, Anna Devane is across the ocean in a French facility, plotting her own highly risky moves to secure her freedom. Valentine knows that the name Z commands ultimate respect and absolute terror in the intelligence community, but he does not know the face. He is essentially walking into the lion's den completely blindfolded. The board is set with incredibly high stakes. Josslyn's life, Valentine's freedom, and Anna's safety all hinge on this faceless power player making a move. This current situation is merely the launching pad for a much larger explosion. So let us build the first future scenario. What happens if Tracy Quartermain is revealed to be Z? This could lead to an absolute dictatorship in Port Charles, but not the kind of bloody, violent dictatorship we are used to seeing from the mob. If Tracy is the one who orchestrates Anna Devane's rescue and pulls Josslyn Jax out of Windermere, she does not do it out of the goodness of her heart. She does it to consolidate absolute power. In this future, Tracy uses her status as Z to completely neutralize Sonny Corinthos and the Cassadine threat. Who benefits here? The Quartermain family, without a single doubt. Brooklyn, Ned, and Michael suddenly find themselves backed by an invisible army of WSB operatives and underworld contacts. Tracy could subtly reshape ELQ into a legitimate front for global intelligence operations, making her family entirely untouchable. But who is in danger in this scenario? Valentine Cassadine is in extreme peril. There is a chance that in exchange for saving Josslyn and Anna, Tracy demands that Valentine be thrown right back into Steinmauer. She eliminates a highly intelligent rival and secures permanent leverage over Carly and Anna simultaneously. The bigger consequence may be that Tracy becomes the untouchable god of Port Charles. No one can arrest her, no one can blackmail her, because she literally controls the classified files. This path transforms the show from a local drama into a high-stakes geopolitical thriller. Imagine Harrison Chase, a dedicated police officer, discovering that his wife's grandmother is the head of a global spy syndicate. The moral compromise would destroy him. The future consequences of this path mean that Tracy holds the metaphorical nuclear launch codes, and everyone else is just living on her borrowed time. Now, let us look at a completely different future. What if this revelation sparks a massive, catastrophic shadow war? In the second future, Valentine Cassadine meets Z in Geneva, and the moment he hears her voice or sees her silhouette, he recognizes Tracy Quartermain. But instead of submitting to her demands and allowing himself to be shipped off to Steinmauer, Valentine manages to escape with this explosive secret. If that happens, the story could be heading toward a devastating collision between the Cassadines and the Quartermains. Valentine would not just use this information to stay out of prison. He would use it to blackmail the WSB's most powerful asset. Imagine a future where Valentine forces Tracy to do his bidding, making her use her Z network to hunt down Ross Cullum and Jen Sidwell entirely on his terms. But Tracy Quartermain is not a victim, and she does not take orders. The future consequences of Valentine trying to blackmail Tracy would be a scorched earth war. Tracy would unleash the full, terrifying might of the WSB to erase Valentine from existence. This would not be a minor variation of the current plot. It would change the entire landscape of Port Charles. Carly, Josslyn, and Anna would be caught in the brutal crossfire of two brilliant, ruthless titans. The collateral damage would be immense. We could see Windermere raided by Black Ops teams in the dead of night, ELQ executives targeted by Cassadine mercenaries, and the entire town effectively placed under martial law by federal agents loyal to Z. This future is chaotic, bloody, and entirely focused on the destruction of the old guard to make way for a new, terrifying reality where the streets of Port Charles become a literal war zone for international spies. Here's the third future, and this is the most unexpected possibility. It is the outcome that very few people are thinking about right now. What if Tracy Quartermain being Z is not a secret she is hiding from the WSB, but a secret she is hiding from another, even more dangerous global syndicate? What if the title of Z is actually a prison of her own making? Looking ahead, imagine a future where Tracy's dual identity is exposed to the public. Not just to Valentine, but to the entire world. Suddenly, every criminal organization, every corrupt politician, and every rogue agent she has ever crossed or manipulated comes looking for her. The Quartermain mansion ceases to be a home and becomes a fortress under siege. In this bizarre and thrilling future, Tracy is forced to form an unholy alliance with the very people she has spent years manipulating. She has to go to Sonny Corinthos, Jason Morgan, and Valentine Cassadine and tell them the truth. She has to say that if she falls, the entire global intelligence network falls, and all their protections vanish with her. This would force Sonny to protect Tracy. It would force Valentine to fight alongside her just to ensure his own survival. It completely flips the dynamic of the entire show. Tracy goes from being the untouchable puppet master to the most hunted woman on the planet, and her only bodyguards are the mobsters and mercenaries she used to control from the shadows. It does not have to be the most likely path, but it is undeniably fascinating. Imagine the psychological toll on Tracy as she has to rely on Sonny Corinthos for her physical safety while desperately trying to reestablish her digital empire. If you ask me, the path that feels most likely is the first one, but with a deeply personal psychological twist. I keep coming back to the idea that Tracy has always been the smartest person in any room she walks into. She has a network of politicians, businessmen, and behind-the-scenes power players that makes Sonny's mob connections look absolutely amateur. The path that makes the most sense is Tracy operating as Z to systematically clean up Port Charles on her own strict terms. She rescues Anna Devane because she respects her intellect and past service. She saves Josslyn Jack specifically to put Carly Spencer permanently in her debt, knowing that controlling Carly means controlling a massive piece of the town's social and financial fabric. And she throws Valentine in Steinmauer because he is a loose cannon who asks too many questions. This aligns perfectly with Tracy's historical character trajectory. She does not want chaos. She wants absolute control. She wants to ensure that the Quartermain legacy is not just about corporate money, but about undeniable global power. If I am looking at the map of the future, Tracy sitting quietly in the ELQ boardroom, sipping her tea while secretly directing WSB satellite strikes and Black Ops extractions, is the most brilliant evolution of her character. It elevates her from a wealthy matriarch to a global force of nature. It explains every time she seemed to know things she shouldn't, every time she managed to pull her family out of impossible legal trouble, and every time she stared down dangerous men without a flinch. She wasn't bluffing. She was calculating their threat level against her hidden resources. But let us look even further down the road, because the story does not end with a simple revelation. If that scenario happens, if Tracy is firmly established as Z, and she has bent the WSB, the Cassadines, and the mob to her will, what happens next may be the true shockwave. Tracy cannot be Z forever. The bigger consequence may be her grooming a successor to take over the mantle. Imagine a future where Brooke Lynn Quartermain, who is currently terrified and worried about a simple hit-and-run frame job, is slowly and methodically brought into the terrifying world of international espionage. Tracy starts testing her, pushing her to make ruthless decisions, preparing her to take over the Z Network. Or perhaps she looks outside her immediate bloodline. Maybe she sees a spark of cold calculation in Trina Robinson after all the trauma she has endured. Or perhaps she sees the raw, unpolished potential in Josslyn Jax. The future consequences of Tracy being Z mean that a new generation must be trained to hold the leash of the global underworld. The story could be heading toward a dark, twisted coming-of-age saga where the young adults of Port Charles realize that true power does not come from a gun, a police badge, or a mob territory. True power comes from the classified files, the encrypted servers, and the global secrets locked inside the Quartermain vault. If that happens, the future of Port Charles is wide open, infinitely more dangerous, and terrifyingly brilliant. We are just waiting for the first domino to fall.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.